The early afternoon sun cast long shadows over the bustling urban neighborhood where a small cafe stood at the center of activity. Patrons sipped coffee at outdoor tables while passers-by hurried along the sidewalks, unaware of the quiet intensity brewing inside the cafe. Inside, Agent Miguel Santos and Agent Rosa de la Cruz sat at a corner table, their laptops open and earpieces discreetly concealed. Their demeanor was calm, but their sharp eyes remained fixed on the bank across the street. The hum of casual conversations around them served as the perfect cover for their operation. Miguel, a seasoned Filipino-American FBI agent, took a sip of his espresso while typing notes into his laptop. Across from him, Rosa monitored the bank's entrance, subtly tapping updates into her phone. The two agents were deep in the coordination of a sting operation, one that had taken months of meticulous planning and held the potential to dismantle a dangerous criminal network operating in the city. Their professionalism and focus were unmistakable, even in the way they seamlessly blended into their surroundings. Across the street, Officer Jake Turner leaned against his patrol car, bored and restless. As a rookie on the force, Jake was brash and eager to prove himself, though his impulsive tendencies often got him into trouble. Standing beside him was Officer Paul Reynolds, his more experienced partner, who shared Jake's knack for snap judgments and his troubling disregard for nuance. The two officers had been assigned to patrol the area but were growing impatient with the lack of excitement. Jake's eyes wandered until they settled on the cafe. His attention was drawn to Miguel and Rosa, who sat casually yet focused, their earpieces catching the light when the angle was just right. Jake nudged Paul, gesturing toward the pair. "Check them out," he said, lowering his voice. "Two people with laptops and earpieces sitting there like they own the place. Looks sketchy, don't you think?" Paul squinted at the cafe, a smirk forming on his face. "Maybe they're casing the bank," he said. "Wouldn't be the first time someone tried something stupid like that." Jake straightened, adjusting his utility belt. "Let's check it out," he said, his tone eager. "Could be a big bust." Paul chuckled but followed Jake toward the cafe. As they entered, their uniforms immediately caught the attention of the patrons. Conversations quieted as the officers approached Miguel and Rosa's table. Miguel glanced up, his sharp eyes assessing the officers in an instant. Rosa stayed focused on her laptop, though a subtle tension tightened her posture. "Afternoon," Jake said, his tone casual but laced with suspicion. "Mind telling us what you're doing here?" Miguel's expression stayed neutral, though his voice carried an edge. "Having coffee, working." Jake's eyes narrowed. "You seem pretty interested in the bank across the street." Miguel exchanged a quick glance with Rosa, who finally looked up. "We're on official business," Miguel said calmly. "Nothing you need to worry about." Paul crossed his arms, widening his stance. "Let's see some ID," he demanded. Rosa reached into her jacket and pulled out her badge, holding it up for the officers to see. "Agent Rosa de la Cruz," she said evenly. "This is my partner, Agent Miguel Santos. We're with the FB. Jake scoffed, squinting at the badge. "That could be fake," he said dismissively. "You expect us to just take your word for it?" Miguel sighed, his patience wearing thin. "Officer, I'm asking you to step back and let us do our job," he said firmly. "This is a federal operation." Jake bristled at the perceived challenge to his authority. "A federal operation? In a coffee shop? That's a joke," he said. "I think you're casing the bank, and I think you're lying." Paul chimed in, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You've got all the signs of someone up to no good. Two people sitting in a corner talking into earpieces. What are you, spies?" Rosa's jaw tightened, but she stayed composed. "Officer, you're making a mistake," she said firmly. "I'm advising you to call your supervisor before this goes any further." But Jake wasn't listening. He grabbed Miguel's arm, his grip firm as he yanked him to his feet. "You're coming with us," he said sharply. "Both of you." The cafe patrons watched in stunned silence as Jake and Paul began escorting Miguel and Rosa toward the exit. Miguel didn't resist, his calm demeanor unshaken. Rosa followed, her sharp eyes scanning the cafe, as though calculating the fallout of the situation. As they stepped outside, the sound of screeching tires shattered the tense quiet. Black SUVs skidded to a stop in the middle of the street, their doors flying open as a team of agents in tactical gear poured out, weapons drawn. "FBI!" one of the agents shouted, his commanding voice cutting through the chaos. "Release them immediately!" Jake froze, his grip on Miguel's arm loosening. Paul instinctively raised his hands, his face pale with shock. The lead FBI agent stepped forward, lowering his weapon but speaking with unyielding authority. "These are federal agents," he said sharply. "You've interfered with an active operation. Stand down now." Miguel straightened, his composure unbroken as he turned to Jake and Paul. "You've made a serious mistake," he said quietly. "Let us go." The weight of the situation finally hit Jake, who let go of Miguel as though his touch had burned him. "We didn't know," he stammered. "They didn't look like—" "Like what?" Rosa interrupted, her voice cold. "Like federal agents? Like people you should respect." The tension was thick in the air as cafe patrons stepped outside, their phones raised to record the unfolding scene. The agents surrounded Miguel and Rosa protectively, their sharp glares pinning Jake and Paul in place. The lead FBI agent turned to the officers, his voice sharp and commanding. "You're both coming with us to the station. Your actions have jeopardized months of work. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Jake and Paul stood frozen, their stunned silence speaking louder than words. The FBI team escorted Miguel and Rosa back into the cafe, where they regrouped and prepared to continue their operation. Outside, the crowd murmured as Jake and Paul were led away, their humiliation caught on camera by bystanders. The incident quickly went viral, with the footage sparking a firestorm of outrage. News outlets highlighted the officers' reckless behavior and the racial profiling at the core of the incident. Social media erupted with demands for accountability, and the hashtag number #RespectFBI agents trended for days. Jake and Paul were suspended pending an internal investigation. Their reputations were irreparably damaged. Meanwhile, Miguel and Rosa's professionalism during the ordeal earned widespread admiration. Their calm defiance in the face of prejudice became a symbol of resilience, and their successful operation, which led to the arrest of several high-profile criminals, cemented their status as heroes. In the aftermath, Miguel used the public attention to address systemic issues within law enforcement. At a press conference, he spoke passionately about the dangers of prejudice and the importance of collaboration. "This wasn't just a misunderstanding," Miguel said, his voice steady but impassioned. "It was a failure of trust, respect, and basic protocol. We cannot allow assumptions and biases to dictate how we treat one another, especially in matters as critical as public safety. We're all on the same team, and it's time we started acting like it." In response, the police department announced mandatory anti-bias training and procedural reviews, a small but significant step toward preventing similar incidents. For Miguel and Rosa, the ordeal served as a reminder of the challenges they faced, not just as federal agents but as individuals fighting for dignity and equality. Yet it also stood as a testament to their strength and the power of staying steadfast in the face of ignorance. Together, they continued their work, knowing their efforts, both on and off the field,